Hello, good morning. This is Anna Imagination with a Healing Garden. I'm not sure yet if this is going to go into psych soup or the subconscious dialogues. I'm split down the middle. I have been dealing with an ethical dilemma for 2 years now. And it wasn't until I reached level 8 that the eighth perspective that I was able to finally sit back and communicate what the dilemma exactly is. So when I first was presented with my problem, I was a level 5. I was a level 5. And my priorities and my ethics were A. Now, at that time, I started a relationship with somebody, and my love for him is pretty solid, really solid. And he stayed with me while I evolved through all these perspective levels. He stayed with me through it all. He is still with me. But it's my ethics that are changing. And when I achieved the eighth perspective and I was able to see how the subconscious mind and the identity are separate. And that's really what I want to talk about, is how the identity and the subconscious mind are separate. And what basically is going on is, let me try and stay on track. I definitely see how a subconscious mind is over here steering a ship while the identity is wanting to go this direction, but the subconscious mind keeps interfering. And when I talk to somebody now, I don't talk to the subconscious mind. I do not engage with it, because when you engage with someone's subconscious mind, you are enabling their fear. So I refuse to engage with the subconscious mind. I only talk to an identity. And while I'm and this is new. This is level 8. I started to get here when I was level 7. And level 7 is when I finally dropped the boundary and said, I'm not talking to subconscious minds anymore. And that's really a huge difference between level 6 and level 7. Level 6, you don't see the difference. Level 7, you can see the difference between the identity speaking and the subconscious mind. And then when you branch away from that, when you step back and you look at it, you can see when you are talking to a subconscious mind, the words they're using, how they're responding, how they're moving. And then on this other side, you have the identity. And that's when I put down the boundary and I started putting up limitations on who I speak to. And some people do not know how to function without their subconscious mind interfering. Other people are so buried under their subconscious mind and they feel so scared that their subconscious mind rules 100% of everything. And it's really difficult to find the identity of some people. You have to achieve a level of mental healing in order to get the identity to come out. And I very much was able to see my own partner as, oh, there's your identity and there's your subconscious mind. Now, in the meantime, when I was at level 5 and level 6, I also had, oh, here's my identity, here's my subconscious mind. And when I reached the end of level 6 and crossed over to 7, I could see the difference. Now, you cannot get to level 7 without curing all your mental illnesses. It's not possible. You have to resolve all your mental illness in order to pass on to level 7. And the reason why is because, this is funny, but mental illness comes from two things. First of all, a misalignment. And second of all, it comes from the system. And the system exists only 1 through 6. So as soon as you get to level 6 and you move on to level 7, you're leaving the system. And with it, you leave behind your mental illness. If you stay inside levels 1 through 6, you're still staying inside the system and you can resolve your mental issue, but you need to understand where your perspectives are and why your perspectives are misaligned, where they're misaligned. And once you separate yourself from that and you stand on the outside, the mental illness goes away. But you have to resolve the misalignment. You must be at a 6-6 in order to pass on to 7. It's not possible any other way. And so at 6, I was able to see where my identity was separate from my subconscious mind. And that's what I was doing in 2021, specifically 2022. May 2022, that's when my subconscious mind split. Well, not my subconscious mind, but that's when I could start to see, oh, here's my identity and here's my mental illness. Here's my subconscious mind. And I was able to step away from it and get around it. And then I was able to create triadic healing to discipline this. And then once I did that, I was able to completely condition out the mental illness. When I did that, I aligned 6-6. And when I did that, I was able to cross over. So I'm aligned. I'm now, when I'm home, I'm 888. And whenever I step outside of my home and I go to the grocery store, I'm 884. And I can feel that. I can now very much feel the misalignment when I go outside. Whenever I associate with other people, I can feel I'm going to establish my 888 in a small community, but you put me outside and I can feel the societal 4 coming in. And now I have to, when in Rome, do as Rome does. And so I adhere for a very brief time to the system of 4, and it's very, very uncomfortable for me. There is this experience that everyone has, the old saying, when you heal, you lose people who are using you. And there's a lot of that happening. What is really happening when we level up and we're losing people is you are experiencing a perspective gap. Perspective gaps are when you are, whatever top level you are, the bottom 3 levels is where your world is. If you are a level 6, then you can function between 4 and 5. You can adapt and move and shift between 4 and 5. 6 is your safe place. That's your coziness. This is assuming you're a 6 ethically. And then 5, you can converse easily with 5s. You might even have friends who are 5s. 4s, that's where you start to put a little bit of distance. It's the same distance we see with a parent talking to a child or a teenager talking to a 5-year-old. There's going to be that, we're not looking at age gap. We're looking at perspective gap, which is why some people step in and you're like, wow, you're really mature for your age. It's not mature for your age. They're at a higher level perspective that's unusual for their age. That is what they're dealing with. But we've been lacking the vocabulary to communicate all of this. Since level 8, my podcasting has gone up a massive notch just because my communication is so more articulate. And as a result, the quality and the way I podcast is different. So the more I do this, the more I'm looking back going, maybe it's time to retire Psych Soup, because I'm not sure. It doesn't serve me anymore. And I'm definitely settling down more into 8, and I can feel the communication really opening up because I have now the vocabulary to communicate all of these ideas. With communication, we have calm. Communication is order. Communication ends disorganization and chaos. But you're not going to get there if you don't speak. It is an acquired skill. It is an acquired skill that you develop over time through use. But it requires psychological safety in order to practice it. Speech, communication is the core of our progress, and it is directly linked to our education. Communication and education go hand in hand so beautifully. But the very first thing that's taken away from us when we are abused is the psychological safety to speak. So here I am with all these videos now, and I'm growing, and the garden must grow with me. And either you're on my ship or you're not. And that's perfectly fine. I love collecting people for my crew. So I'm looking at this ethical dilemma. When you grow, you get that perspective gap. And when you have a perspective gap, you do lose people because they can't relate to you anymore. So there's this massive uprising that I'm seeing on Facebook and in social media where everyone's talking about their healing and their light work. And I'm losing friends, I'm losing people. At level 8, you get the skill to walk among all the perspectives. So you get all of them back. At level 8, you gain access to all of your family and friends again, if you ethically can accept their behavior and lifestyle. And that is where I am having a dilemma. Can I ethically accept the lifestyle of my partner. Now, he's not harming anyone, not at all. And that is where I'm going. So shouldn't that be, if it's not causing anyone harm, then what's the big deal? And it's, to be blunt, it's private. And it's something I don't want to get into because it is so very private. But it is very much related to the rape that I experienced back in May, 2 months ago, just 2 months ago. And that's the other thing is it's been very difficult. And there's a lot of, the question that I have is when it's his subconscious mind making the decisions, not his identity. Do you forgive? Or do you draw that line in the sand and say, I cannot be in that culture or society anymore. I cannot approve of your decisions because your choices and your behavior speak volumes on you. And I've got this level 8 thinking now going, what he needs is love, support, and patience. And I've got this other thing inside of me, and maybe it's the hurt from the rape, going, what about my ethics? Does this violate my ethics? Are ethics more important than love? And that's the question. And that is it right there. I am absolutely, completely, and totally in love with his identity. I love that man's identity. Absolutely love his identity. And his subconscious mind, he's just not aligned. He's just not aligned. And he's either going to prioritize growth and become aligned, or he's going to prioritize the comfort zone and stay where he is. And he has to feel psychologically safe enough to grow, as we all do. His story is identical to every one of our stories. There is nothing unique about his story. It is 100%, it will be textbook. The textbooks haven't been written yet, but it will be textbook. That is, every one of us has the same story. It's very simple. Either you prioritize growth or you prioritize comfort zone because you don't feel psychologically safe enough to grow. Address your psychological safety so you can grow, and it changes the game. That's the one thing holding all of us back. You don't feel safe enough to grow. You're terrified that you're going to have the perspective gap that's going to put distance between you and your loved ones. Once you get to level 8, you get it all back. And you get to be yourself. I now have the ability to walk and mingle with my family. I now can talk to my sister. I now can talk to my brother-in-law. I now can talk to people I would never be able to talk to. I'm now talking to my daughter. My daughter is actually coming around a little bit. It's been a very slow chiseling away like a bird on a mountaintop. But I've been persevering and enduring and providing love, patience, kindness. I believe that love, patience, and kindness can cure anything. And that's really what it comes down to, love versus ethics. And sometimes when I'm on my ethical high road, I feel arrogant. I feel confident. I feel too confident. I feel condescending when I embrace my ethics. Are we putting too much of an importance on our ethics? Are we? Now, Stephen Covey, with his 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, also puts this massive emphasis on ethics. And I agreed with him when I was 15 years old and I read the book and I went, ethics is the answer. And I built my entire world on my ethics then at that point. I decided what my ethics were. I went through philosophy. I cherry-picked my ethics and I stood by them. And I have chosen my ethics over love many times. And I will, once upon a time, I would do it again. But now I've explored the identity and true love and how we call it true love. Really, it's fear-based love and love-based love. That's all it is. Love-based love and fear-based love. Most of us are experiencing fear-based love when it's supposed to be love-based love. Most of us are incapable of feeling love-based love because you require self-identity and self-love and a healthy, balanced identity to even feel love-based love. But instead, people just walk around using the wrong words, saying things like, you have to love yourself before you can love others. Wrong words. What you're saying is you can't love with love-based love until you have your identity recovered. So until then, you're loving off of fear with your subconscious mind in charge. If you don't have your identity defined, you are not coming from a place of love. You can't, because your identity is suppressed, which means 100% of the choices you make are fear-based off of your subconscious mind. So when I meet a person and they're going on about how much they love their partner, but they have 100% of a fear-based subconscious mind in control, I want to say to them, where is your love coming from, if not from fear? Because you are running off of no other emotion other than fear right now, because that is what's in charge. Who are you? I don't know. What do you love? I don't know. What are your goals? I have none. That's not, then you can't possibly love out of love, because you have literally suppressed and destroyed all of your love. So all that's left is fear. Are ethics as important as we think they are? This is my question right now. This is the conundrum I've been having for 2 years. What's more important, love or ethics? If no one's getting hurt, what's more important, love or ethics? And I don't know the answer. I am still trying to figure out the answer. And the answer is literally going to determine whether or not I terminate the relationship I have or keep it. And my ethics will scream, going, this is ethically incorrect. And then my love will expand and be like, he needs love, patience, kindness, gentleness, and forgiveness through this hard time. And we do not abandon those we love. And then it grows again. But ethically, what he's doing is incorrect. But it's not him responding. That's not his identity. That is his subconscious mind responding. And I don't know what to do. I do not know what to do. So I do nothing. I make no choice. I just push pause and I wait, because that is my go-to plan. That is always my go-to plan. You can't make a decision, you take a knee. Take a knee. That is dojo talk for pause, meditate, and wait. It's not time to make an answer. And that's it. People are all about make a decision, yes or no. There's a third option, and that is maybe it's time to wait to make a decision. Maybe we're not supposed to make a decision yet. Maybe we're supposed to wait. Waiting and patience is the opportunity for a lesson. Every time you are in a position of waiting, it's time to learn. Whenever you get to a point where you're feeling impatience, that is your first red flag that it's time to learn a lesson. It's time to sit back and figure out what the lesson is. So now I look at patience as, oh, it's time to learn. It's time to embrace a lesson. What's the lesson? And the lesson is ethics more important than love? And I don't know. I do not know. I'm sitting here at the 8th perspective, and I cannot determine, up to level 7, and this is the difference. 1 through 7, ethics trumps all. 1 through 4, oh, it's all about ethics. Throw people away if they don't agree with your ethics. Level 5 through 7, well, ethics are everything. You require ethics. That tells you that if you should or shouldn't be around certain people. Don't confuse ethics with boundaries. Don't confuse ethics with boundaries. Ethics are not your defense system. In fact, your defense system is supposed to keep you in place so you can mingle with people with different ethics and keep yourself safe. Now, level 8. The very first perspective, the very first change to this perspective that I walked into with 8 was suddenly I'm going, maybe ethics aren't everything. Maybe love is. Logically, philosophically, if you have the ability to walk among other ethics, to pass in and out of ethics, and embrace the differences, then why would ethics be any different? Maybe that is what the lesson is to learn how to become tolerant of other perspectives, even when you don't agree with them. Maybe right now what he needs is time and patience to figure himself out. And he can do that alone, or he can do it with support and love. So it does keep coming back to love versus ethics. And the more I'm here, the more I'm at perspective 8, the more I'm going, love matters more than ethics. And that's where perspectives 1 through 7 have it all wrong, that they prioritize ethics over people. Because ethics is just one more of our differences. I'm still going to think about this. And I'm probably just going to keep podcasting this dilemma that I have until I can figure out the right answer. Because right now my ethics very much conflict with my identity. And that's causing me significant cognitive dissonance in my alignment. The way I argue now and the way I handle conflict is very different at level 8. It's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. It's easily one of the most amazing changes I've seen between level 7 and 8 is the way I handle conflict. Now everything is like this, where I step into a conversation and I go, these are my feelings, these are my views, these are my ethics, this is my identity. And this is how I perceive all of this based on actions. Don't respond. Just observe, reflect, and understand that this is how I feel. And it hurts. And I feel conflicted. So I have these ethics that contradict my ethics, and I have my love that contradicts my ethics, this one particular ethic. And I don't have the answer. It just causes me pain. Most days it's tolerable. Other days it's not. But these are things that I wasn't even able to articulate until Sunday, 5 days ago. I'm now finally able to articulate them, clarify, say what I need to say. Communication is the core. Communication is the core to conscious awareness and growth. If you will not communicate, you will not grow. And in order to do that, you require psychological safety. So, you need to fix your relationship with communication. And to do that, you require the psychological safety to do so. It's extraordinary. It does give me more of a direction, so I know where I'm going with things. That's the other thing is when I was level 6 and 7, it would take me an hour to say one thing. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, this is extraordinary to go back and watch. I am now saying a lot of things in 10 minutes. I'll look at the clock while I'm podcasting and I'll be like, oh my God, I have hit like 10 major points and it's only been 10 minutes. That's because my articulation and my communication have improved due to the podcasting and the journaling, primarily the podcasting, and reaching level 8. The communication doors just opened right up and I went, I can communicate now. I now have the vernacular. Yay! It's been a huge relief. So I want to do communication classes. I'm definitely going to do communication classes and cultivating that psychological safety. Yeah. I'll do communication classes, cultivating the psychological safety, and then choosing your comfort zone versus growth, because there's a lot of people who want to grow, but they're conflicted with that comfort zone. Again, it's their psychological safety to grow. They don't feel safe enough to grow. So that's the other class I'm going to start up here. And I'm going to, this is all included in triadic healing. This is something I'm going to do for preparing the work for healing. Classes are available over on my online, and basically anytime anyone, this is basically going to be added to the curriculum of triadic healing. So anyone who signs up for my master classes, anyone who signs up for my Power of Self course, this is going to be included into it, creating and cultivating a psychologically safe place. You know, I'm supposed to be doing goddess training in August, and I'm going to scratch goddess training and instead go for this. I think this is a higher priority, and I think it will be more in demand. Definitely. So I'm going to change the curriculum for August, and I'm going to be doing cultivating psychological safety, where it's safe enough to communicate, safe enough to grow. And those are going to be my two things. To communicate and to grow. So that's coming up in August, around August 14th. And I have a piece in me. I definitely have a piece. And the more you articulate, yeah, it's definitely the naming. It's definitely part of that naming and the validating, which I also need to go over, because that's really what you're doing, is through naming and validating, you understand. And when you name and you validate and you understand, that literally returns your power and your authority to you. Every time I talk or communicate with my partner and I say these things to him, it clarifies a lot more, and I feel more in control, and my anxiety goes way down, because I have named them, validated them, and I understand. And because I am communicating to him, he is in the loop of the understanding, so he can see my behavior and, oh, it's not coming from nowhere. It's not erratic. It's logical. So communication is really the door to healing. It really is. Yeah, I feel solid. I feel better. Thank you so much for listening. And this has been, I don't know what it is yet. After this video, I'm going to figure out where I'm going to drop it. It's the Healing Garden, but I'm not sure which podcast it belongs in. I don't feel like it's Psych Soup anymore. I almost want to say it's Subconscious Dialogues. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been Subconscious Dialogues.